Okay, today is engine service day. I got a Yanmar 3JH4E. Is it called? It's a 3JH4E, and we're gonna do the impeller. We're gonna check the belts, do the oil filter, oil, and both fuel filters, both the primary and secondary. So this is the secondary fuel filter. This is the oil filter, and a bit further in here we got a primary fuel filter as well, which is a little bit hard to see from here. It's a Racor. To start with, I've warmed up the engine so that the oil is warm enough to suck it out using the oil extractor. You can also see down here there's the impeller, the water pump. A little bit of dirt at the bottom of the bilge. Gonna have to clean that out as well and maybe find out where it comes from. So I'm using this oil extractor which creates a vacuum, and then it's connected to the dipstick hole where it sucks the oil out of the engine. Doesn't work very well. Why not? So while the last of the oil is dripping into this extractor, I'm planning to take the oil filter out. So we'll see, I can open it by hand. And I have a little container here to see if I can capture some of the oil that drains out as well. It. And here's the new one. It's not original, but it should fit. So it took quite a while to pump out all the oil, but I think I've got the majority out now. So I've got, according to the markings on this extractor, 1, 2, 3, 4 liters I've got out, and I think that's pretty good. So next thing will be to install the new filter, and we're gonna do that in a sec. So I'm actually using a monograde oil rather than 1540, which is sometimes recommended. This is what I've been recommended by people doing the service before, so and from a few different sources as well. So I don't know, in Australia I think the temperature differences aren't that big that you need a multi-grade oil, but I'm not an expert. So I'm just lubricating the seal a little bit before installing it, and should actually top it up with a little bit of oil as well. See what we can do. That would be plenty. hope most of that oil stays within the filter. Tightening by hand makes it easier to get it up later on. This should do. So also remembering to replace the dipstick at this point in time. So we got all the oil out that we want to get out. And I think it's time to fill up the oil as well. I'm going to top it up with about 4 liters because that's what I got out. Okay, so the next job on the list is replacing the impeller. It's coming from the cool water intake here, and I've closed the intake valve to stop the unnecessary water to flow out. This is a number 8. Gear. This is quite a simple job actually. There, the water, the seawater. Oops. That's about it. There's not much water coming out. And I've got a special tool for this to pull it out. Let's see how that works. Funnily enough, they are pointing in different directions. These. This one actually looks fine. It looks absolutely perfect, this one. Maybe we should replace it anyway. And it's got a little O-ring here. I think we're just going to keep that. So no debris or anything in there. This one has threads just on one side, so it's important that that side is out if you want to be able to use the tool for it. to remove it later on. What you should always do is put a little bit of impeller lubricant on it. Let's do that. This makes it easier to slide it in. I think the rotation is like that. This is the intake and it comes out here. There we go. It's ready to go. The backing plate back in place. Turning the intake valve on, opening it again. Okay, so I'm trying to change the filter on the primary fuel filter, and it's kind of hard to see in here, so I've taken out this is called a Racor. I've taken out that bottom plug here. I don't know if it's visible here, probably not. Let's see if we can get some more light on it. But I haven't got much dripping out of it, which is confusing me at the time. And I've taken the top off the filter as well after closing the fuel valve at the tank. Alright, we'll continue trying. So I got the filter out of the primary fuel filter, and it looked pretty dirty to me. I'm going to wipe off the assembly inside of the fuel filter as well. We'll see how that goes. So there's quite a lot of sludge in there. Try to wipe it out, see how that goes. Okay, now it's time for the new fuel filter to go in. Hopefully it fits. With a little bit of force. And that's now in. Time to put we should fill it up with some fuel now. And then I think what we have here is the bleeding screw, which I need to undo just once everything is filled up. But maybe before that we should also do the secondary fuel filter. Okay, it's time to attack the secondary fuel filter. It is placed here, and it should be tightened by hand, but I found it hard to undo, so I've got this tool that helps out a bit. I'm just going to clean a little bit around the edges before I take it off, and I put container underneath it as well to take up the spill of the fuel. Okay, so I put a new filter in. I've topped it up with diesel, fresh diesel from a jerry can. It's time to put the lid back on. Right, the lid is back on. Time to open the fuel tank and see if you need to bleed it somehow. Okay, all good. Okay, so after fitting the new secondary fuel filter, that is empty, so we need to fill it up with new diesel and get all the air out of the system. So this is something that was quite new to me, and I'm learning how to do it. Maybe you have some tips on how to do it differently, or if I'm doing the wrong thing, but this is how I went about it. So there's a little lever here with which you can pump the oil. So you had to pump that about a few hundred times in order to fill up the new filter. And what we also have is a number of bleeding screws. They seem to all have an M typed on them. So this one, the first one, didn't really need any bleeding. The second one is once the secondary fuel filter is full, that comes out and goes into the next stage of the fuel supply. So I opened that, and it took quite a while before I got some fuel out. And finally there is also a bleeding screw here, which I did bleed and open it up, after which it was done, and I started the engine. It ran nicely and beautifully. So that sort of takes it to the end of this engine service. I did have a look at the belt. I didn't actually replace it. It looked to me to be in a good shape, and I can't see any sort of beginnings of wear or cracks or anything, and it had good tension as well. So I'm actually going to leave that on for this time around. And so that's pretty much it. All done and dusted. If you have any comments or tips, you're more than welcome to let me know. Thank you.